on the one hand, you see Trump saying that he wants to be a peace president. He wants to get a Nobel Peace Prize. He is talking to Putin. He's trying to get a ceasefire in Ukraine. And that's all well and good. On the other hand, this America First breaks down not just around Israel, but around all this other crap that he's throwing out there about Greenland and Canada.
Excuse me. You said it wrong. It is red, white, and blue land. Got to get it right. I mean, Jen, what's the word you like to use?
Caucasity. The caucasity. That's what I call that. Yes. Greenland is 90% Inuit. Like, this is so absurd. They don't even want to be affiliated with Denmark, let alone us. Like, all I hope is that this lights the fire that they need to continue what they're trying to do to get their separation from Denmark. Like, that, I think, might be what has been inspired now because of this. But they're not playing with us.
But you just wonder what the Trump supporters think of all of this craziness that you say America first, America first. I guess he convinces people that Greenland is absolutely critical for the United States.
Right.
And that's part of the America First agenda. And all these other things that he's been throwing out there about Canada that, when he said it the first time, we're all, ha, 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 that's pretty funny. And then he says it again and again. So I don't know. You say he's not good at protecting empire, and yet he seems to want to expand the empire.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it'll happen. Like, but what he says and what happens are very different things.
Well, that's not what I'm alluding to. What I'm alluding to is that we've had commanders in chiefs over the years, even post Kennedy, who was the last real commander in chief that we ever had. They were much better at protecting empire in the sense that it wasn't fully exposed to the general public.
Right. Trump exposes all of it. That's
the way that it is now. It is just so in everybody's faces. And that is something that Americans, if there's one thing I give Americans credit for, they don't like anything being rubbed in their face. And the one thing that I have noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed as well, the populist right is much more hands-on than anything on the left that I've ever seen. And whether that's because Thomas Massie may be the most courageous person in the halls of Congress, considering how many people are coming after him, I think Ilhan Omar also deserves that credit for how the type of stuff that she has to deal with on a regular basis. But what you are seeing, particularly on the America First libertarian right, they are not on board with Israel under any circumstances. They have been very adamant about the fact that they are not on board with this. And I think this is going to come to a head a lot sooner than people think. Now, I know that the Democrats think they're going to benefit from this, but we also are of the mind that the Democratic Party may be going the way of the Whigs, because there is really a vote of no confidence with that party now. So it's kind of up in the air in terms of what direction we're going to go in. But I'd be curious to hear how you see it unfolding as far as that goes.
Well, it's very interesting you say that, because I would love for that to be the true. And I think it's moving in that direction, but we're nowhere near there yet. We still have a lot of people who are MAGA supporters who continue to think that Israel is not only our ally, but I think because of this Christian Zionism, they have this fanatic attachment to Israel. And you see an overlap of that with the MAGA people. And so I don't see them breaking as much as you do. And Peter, maybe you see it. Do you see it because you see some of the social media and the podcasts and things?
Well, I do. Well, I do lean libertarian in a number of ways. I do believe that the opinions that matter most to me when it comes to the issue of war are people that have actually served our country. And when the people that have served our country have said enough with effing Israel, to me, that's a good sign. because those are people that actually that they command respect and amount of gravitas that actually has influence. The other thing I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed as well, is if you notice the social media accounts, the obvious ones, the insurrection Barbies of the world, these are accounts that, as far as I can tell, they are being paid to promote Israel. These are not necessarily people that believe in the cause, but they know that if you are on the right side of supporting a given cause, that it could be very good for your career. We saw what Deborah Messing would do. We saw what Noah Tishby does. We see what some of these opportunistic people will do if they think it will help their cause. Whether they really are true believers or not, I'm not even convinced necessarily that Mike Huckabee is a true Christian Zionist. He could just very well be a true believer on one hand, but on the other hand, he knows it serves his career. His own daughter is the friggin' governor of Arkansas, for goodness sake. So nothing really surprises me. What I do believe is that this Zionist state experiment is going to fail. It's too obvious now that there are too many people who don't like it. There are too many people on the global scale that are sick of it. They are sick of the fact that we interlock ourselves with it. And then you look at the people that are in support, the Zionist accounts that are in support of what's going on. You look at people just in regards to what happened to Ramisa up at Tufts. She had it coming. She deserved it. Oh, I would kick them all out. When regular, rational people see that, and most people are rational, let's be honest, they are. When they see stuff like that, it doesn't sit well with the average person. And that's why you're seeing the language increase significantly. Now, as Jen has pointed out, and as I'm sure you've noticed, there has been a considerable ramping up of anti-Semitism in this country. It's the Jews' fault, they did this, etc. We have to deal with this now before we give way too much power and authority to people who just don't like Jews. That's a very dangerous place to be. So slicing through that is going to be very tough. But I do believe that the Zionist state is going to fall. I do believe that.
Well, I would love to get some contacts offline from you of some of the libertarian groups that you're connected with, because we find so few of them. Of course, you mentioned Tom Massey, and he's basically the only one at this point. And it was interesting to see Marjorie Taylor Greene come out with a tweet the other day saying that the American people don't want war, whether it's in the Middle East or in Ukraine. And we went to her office and said, okay, well, is she going to now vote to stop the weapons? And they said, well, you know, it's being put forward by Democrats, and this is such a partisan atmosphere. And we can't find a Republican in Congress to initiate anything to cut off weapons to Israel. And so when you look at the opinion polls and you see that so many more Republicans now are not sympathetic towards Israel, and yet you can't find one Republican in the House or the Senate who will say, okay, time to cut the weapons, something is very dysfunctional about that. So I would love to get more contacts in your world, Peter, so that we can build these alliances.
100%.
We have some people, like we have content creators and people that we've had on, everything from conservative people, libertarian people. We've had Proud Boys people, like all different kinds of people. And for the most part,
I was just going to say, Jen, I don't mean to interject, but on Monday night, we are going to have Daniel McAdams, who is, he's the director of the Ron Paul Institute. He's been on our show, very friendly with him. He just interviewed Thomas Massey. He does a regular podcast with Ron Paul. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a connection that you definitely want to have. And they're all about it. I've said it for a very long time. Progressives and libertarians have far more in common than they generally want to admit, because there are some very juxtaposed issues that they don't agree on. But as we know, especially on, as I like to call them, the loony left, if you are not 100% on board with the agenda, they cast you aside, and you can't
even talk to them. They won't even talk to you. These are people that truly were okay with having 4 years of a president that didn't speak to any of our, I hate the term adversaries because that's just stupid, but like that we had 4 years of a president that wasn't talking to Putin. That's insanity to me. That's insanity. And for anyone to think that that's decent policy is off the wall. off the wall. Like I can't even fathom it. And that's what these left people are. I hate saying left. They're not leftists. They're corporatists. But that's what they're with. They're okay with that as long as it's being done by a Democrat.
Yeah, we just got to get beyond the partisan politics. We went to a press conference today put on by some Jan 6 folks to talk about prison reform. And we were happy to be there to support them. But, you know, it felt uncomfortable with some of the things that they said, some of the slogans, some of the shirts, because it's very, you know, Trump, Trump, Trump. And we want to say prison reform, yes, but let's not bring the partisan stuff into this. So, yeah, we got to find ways to do it that get beyond the party politics.